All right, let's back up a little bit. So obviously in solar, we've got a whole bunch of different roof types that we work on, and sales reps have got to be familiar with each and every type because they run into it on a regular basis, right?
Yeah.
So in general, we've got sloped roofs, which is, 90% of our homes out there have what would be considered a 4 and 12 pitch. And that's pretty easy to walk on. It's not too steep. And there's a lot of different roofing material types that'll go on a sloped roof. Asphalt shingle, composition asphalt shingle, 3 terms for the same type of roof product. That is what I would consider the most popular sloped roof material, correct?
Yeah, we just call it comp.
Yeah, call it comp.
Yep.
Comp is probably a solar installer's favorite roof to work on. It's easy to walk on. It's quick. The flashings that we use are fairly inexpensive, and they go in easily, and we don't have any problems
And
with
it's a
leaking.
sales rep's favorite roof because there are no adders, right?
Correct.
They don't get the deduction, they get the extra commission.
Yep.
I know a lot of sales reps actually seek out the comp shingle roofs because it's a faster install. They get more commission on it.
Yep.
And some companies, they only take comp roofs and cement tile usually, but yeah, comp roofs are the most popular.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, and I think most sales reps, they've been doing this for a couple months. Then they're going to quickly become very familiar with asphalt shingle or comp shingle. Then we're on to probably the second most popular sloped roof material in San Diego or Southern California is going to be an S-tile. Right? S-tile is a concrete version of Spanish tile, and it's one piece. It's really strong if it is full weight concrete tile, and it's used on vast 1980, 1990 tract homes all throughout the county.
How much do one of those tiles weigh? You say it's pretty standard or it's pretty heavy?
A standard weight concrete tile is going to be about 10 pounds.
Okay. I want to back up a little bit. You mentioned a 412 pitch.
Yep.
Not even certain what that means. I know I see it all the time on designing platforms and it's set in CAD designs and all over. There's communication. It just goes right past my head.
Yep.
What is a 412 pitch, or how do you even calculate what a pitch is, and why would we need to know that, and how is it relevant?
Sure. So with a lot of experience, you can just look at a roof and judge the pitch, right? Really steep roof in San Diego would be like a 9 and 12 pitch. What that number is referring to is as you travel 12 inches over, the roof is going to drop 9 inches. Okay, so 9 and 12 will be from a starting point on that roof plane. If you went out into the sky 12 inches and then down 9 inches, that would be the pitch that's created. Okay, a 4 and 12 inches over, 4 inches down, so it's less of an angle.
So most sales reps are not a beautiful mind writing these numbers up in the sky and seeing them. How do we figure that out easily? Is there a tool we can use, or?
There's probably an app for your phone that'll do it.
Oh.
You just set the phone on there. There's also different level tools that'll do it at Home Depot that are cheap
So
and light to
why
carry.
would we need to know the pitch? What's the importance?
There's
of
going to
that?
be an adder on a roof if it's anything over a 6 and 12. At some
For your
point,
company or all companies?
all companies.
What about corporate? Where's the?
Yeah. Anything basically over, I think it's like 30 degrees is usually you're running in, and 30 degrees is a pretty steep roof. So as the sales is out there, if they notice a roof looks pretty steep, chances are there's going to be an adder on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you're talking degrees now, and you're talking 412 or 9.
Interchangeable terminology. So roofing industry standards are the 4 and 12, 9 and 12. A 12 and 12 pitch would be 12 inches over, 12 inches down, equaling a 45-degree angle.
Okay.
Okay, that's totally unwalkable. You basically have to be harnessed in, and you got to put in kickboards and actually install additional items to be able to then install the solar or do the roofing.
I've actually seen pictures of that.
Yeah.
It looks like they're rappelling on a roof while
Yeah.
they're installing solar. Is there an added cost for that, or not really?
What do you think? How quickly could you install?
If I was rappelling, I could fall real fast down to that roof, faster than if I was walking. No, it's why is
Yes.
it more expensive?
takes twice as long, 3 times as long to install the same system on a steep roof than on a standard roof where the employees are able to actually walk around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So, what is the importance of us knowing the roof slopes, or what does it do? It does. I know this. I know that it has an impact on the production that we get out of the panels, right?
Sure does.
What's the optimal roof pitch for production?
At our location on the longitude?
I
or
think it's
latitude?
412 or like 18 degrees.
Oh, it's relevant to the location that we're at. It's different if we're in Oregon or.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
If you're further north in the U.S., you want a higher angle on your panels.
Correct.
And it's all based on where the sun is at in the sky the majority of the year.
Okay.
Right? And so, yeah, at this location on the map, I think our ideal tilt is like 25 degrees, which
Okay.
would be about a 5 and 12, 6 and 12 roof.
So I guess it's important for not sales reps necessarily, but possibly designers to know what the roof type is. I know that when we're using different portals, they ask us specifically what is the roof type, so that when it generates the contract, and even at SunPower or Sunrun, when it generates the contract, that's what tells us the production is when we click the direction of the roof.
Yep.
And I know that we have to be compliant within a certain amount of production when we're using these larger companies like Sunrun and SunPower. Within 5% accuracy, is it right?
Yep.
And if we're not within 5% accuracy, then we have to go re-sign the homeowner or we take a major hit. So when designing these, it is very important to know the roof pitch. And it is also important for the sales rep, because if they don't know the roof pitch, they could be promising a production that might not happen. They might have to re-sign the customer.
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
Okay. So go ahead with the, you were talking about S-tile. And,
Yeah.
And the average weight is about 10 pounds, you said, for that?
For a full weight or standard weight concrete S tile, it's about 10 pounds per foot. Okay, and each tile covers about 1 square foot.
Oh, okay.
And if you go into, so it makes sense to talk about lightweight and standard weight S tile while we're on subject. If you're in a neighborhood and every house has the identical roof, it's a big tract neighborhood, and they're all the red S tile, you can be fairly confident that that is a standard weight tile. Okay. If you're in a neighborhood where, let's say it's a little bit older, and you're looking around at all the neighbors, and everybody's got asphalt shingle or shake shingle and some other different roof type, and this one house has this concrete S tile, you can be fairly sure that that is a lightweight version of the standard weight.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yes.
Okay.
Why? Because that house was not originally engineered and was not originally built for a full weight concrete tile. 10 pounds per foot over a 2,000 square foot house, that roof weighs a lot, right? So the house has to be built to stand up to that.
Okay.
If it was originally built for shake shingle, which is about 1 pound per foot, and then somebody over the years has added S-tile, they've got to use a lightweight version of it that is about 6 pounds per foot. The lightweight tile can't be walked on. It's extremely brittle.
What is considered lightweight tile?
It looks identical. You're not supposed to be able to see the difference. It's just so that that structure can support the tile roof. And what they've done is they basically made it's almost as if they've made it with like carbonated water. There is just the concrete, the product itself is brittle and just much lighter.
And they do that for structural integrity.
Correct.
Okay. So I know as sales reps, we often ask, is this going to need a composition underlay? Which means that you have to individually take off each separate tile, right? And stack it up, which could be time consuming because how many are on one roof plane? Thousands?
Yep.
Maybe not thousands, but there's a lot. So, and you have to do each one individually. And then comes the felt paper underneath it, right?
Yep.
And then what you're talking about is putting composition shingle underneath that, so that, because I know some companies like Sunrun, they don't allow installs on a kind of tile like that, right?
Right.
So when photos are taken to submit to get paid, they have to show photos of that installed on composition shingle, right?
Right.
So you put the composition shingle on, why wouldn't you just install it directly on the felt paper and call it a day? Or put a sheet of plastic down?
Because it's not approved roofing material, and you're going to have major issues
Approved by,
by the building codes and by the jurisdiction, and
so you need a permit for it.
not necessarily. In most jurisdictions, we're not required to pull a permit if we're doing what we refer to that as a picture frame, right? That would be considered a roof repair, not a complete re-roof. And so yeah, it would be a very, very bad idea to install directly to the paper.
Yeah, it sounds like a bad idea. I just wanted people to know this at home. But I guess what's to stop a company from doing it if there's no one auditing these things?
Sure. You just could you get away with that temporarily? Absolutely. But that company's going to be gone in no time.
Okay, so be careful if they say, yes, we can do it on clay tile and it's very cheap.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
No, that could be a red flag. So I heard there's a certain weight that it's considered light tile versus standard cement tile. So the light tile always needs a composition underlay, whether it's corporate or local,
Yep.
right? So what is the weight of a light tile, or what is it considered to be light tile where we need a composition underlay, and does that vary with different installers?
Well, I know on the corporate side for us, our anything under, I think it's 8 pounds is going to be a red flag for us. And there's a little bit of gray area, like if our site surveyor, obviously he would be going out there to do the survey. He has a scale that will weigh the tile.
Oh, you connect the tile to it?
Actually, we'll connect the tile to the scale. It will show the weight. He'll take a picture, document it, obviously. So, because sales, obviously, and
We're
everyone
going to
needs to
question
know.
everything.
Yes, they'll question everything. So we have to document that. And we'll ask the surveyor, how, because there has been tile that's kind of borderline, and the surveyor was like, this is, it was very strong on the survey. And so chances are we might just end up ordering, 100 extra tile instead of having to re-roof that whole solar plane. But basically, if it is under 8 pounds, we're most likely going to have to do a full re-roof for the solar planes.
And how about, do you have a certain weight where you're saying, okay, this is too risky, it weighs too little?
No, we have not gotten to the point. We have not ever adapted that process of actually weighing a tile. I feel that the judgment call can be made based on the neighborhood. And is there a chance that a homeowner added full weight concrete tile to a house that was not originally designed for it? Yes. You could have a structural engineer look at that house, do the calculations, and say, yeah, it's perfectly fine to put full weight concrete tile on this house.
How much is it to have an engineer go do that?
A site visit for an engineer, $2,000.
So same as a comp underlay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
And we have probably installed on lightweight tile, and where quite frankly the big installers are going to do the groundwork that day, and only the lightest installers are actually going to be on the roof.
Okay.
We might break 200 tiles, and it's a pretty miserable process working on lightweight tile. But it's funny, the rigidity of those tiles will change depending on air temperature, moisture, and time of year. So we've gone out, done site surveys on homes, and the site surveyor walked all over that roof, didn't break any tile. And then the install crew shows up a month later to install, and they're breaking every other tile they step on.
Well, is it because they're carrying the panels, the added weight?
Yeah, and these guys aren't doing a site survey; they're actually working, right? You got to work
Right,
on this stuff
yeah.
all day.
Well, why don't you just make a backpack with a solar panel on it for your site surveyor to test that out?
We're gonna,
Or get a scale, whichever is easier. No, but I guess the question is, I guess it's subject to the installer on what lightweight tile is,
correct.
right?
Yep.
And the reason you guys are wondering this is to mitigate your risks and the expenses associated with it. And it's better to be safe than sorry, which
Absolutely.
is why we have an adder for lightweight tile and doing the comp underlay. So when they remove each individual tile, and they put this composition underlay down and install it. The flashing is easy, right? It's more waterproof than it was before, from what I understand.
Yeah,
If you put
absolutely.
the composition underlay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then after that, you have to put each individual tile back and picture frame it, like you mentioned.
Yep.
And those are the installs that look like they're completely flush with the roof usually, right?
The most aesthetically pleasing install is 100% the picture frame.
So when you install these solar panels and you picture frame it, surely the tiles cannot be the same size as they were when you took them off. How do you picture frame it and still cover the whole roof? Do you have to cut the tiles?
Yeah.
How do
Yep.
you do that?
So the whole roof plane where the solar is going to be installed, all those tiles will be removed. They'll be relocated onto a different roof section. We'll lay down the asphalt shingle covering that entire roof plane
The whole roof plane.
from ridge to fascia
If the
and
roof
from
plane is
hip
this
to hip.
big and the solar's only going to be here, why don't you just do the comp to there?
Well, depending on the situation, we could do that. So yes, if it is a really big roof plane and we're only installing on a certain section, you can split a roof plane. Well, that would be vertically. You can.
Why not horizontally?
You can split it horizontally if the shingles are going on the bottom half. You cannot only comp out the top half of a roof plane
Why is that?
because the water is going to get underneath the solar panels, and then it's onto the comp shingle, and then getting the water from the comp shingle back up on top of the tile below it on that roof plane
Yeah.
is a tricky situation.
So when you picture frame it up top,
Yep.
and the water goes into the picture frame and hits the comp shingle, it's
Yep.
going to roll down it's going to roll down the roof, and the water does not go back up onto the tile just because there's no comp shingle there.
Exactly.
So you create water damage.
Yep.
But if it's on the bottom half, the water is going to run off the tiles anyway, just like they always did, and then they'll spill into the comp shingle and then go under.
Bingo.
So it's you can okay, that makes sense. So
Yep.
you can split a roof horizontally if it's on the bottom half,
Yep.
and you can split it vertically
Yep.
if it's a long enough roof plane.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. Now that composition shingle costs money. You have to pay your employees to lay it down.
Of course.
Comp's not free. That's why we have these adders for composition comp layouts. Is that what you call it? Is that
You
the
call
term
it a
these
comp
We
days?
out.
call it a comp out, same as a picture frame.
Yeah.
And we call it comp underlay.
I call it a picture frame.
Picture frame?
Yeah.
Okay. So and then there's cement tile, which is the easiest, and there's different types of cement tile.
Yep.
Okay. Now, you mentioned cement tile typically is about 10 pounds, Jay. Right, so why is 2 pounds such a big difference? I mean, we weigh 200 pounds when we walk up there with those solar panels, and Ian weighs 400 pounds when he walks up there with the panels.
It's just a time and tested calculation that, you know, our corporate side has used as a factor for where the tile will get compromised and possibly end up breaking and shattering. So that's, you know, but there's a little bit of a gray area and wiggle room on that, but that's kind of our threshold is 8 pounds.
Okay. One of the most elusive roofs out here. I know a lot of companies don't do it. They're hard to find, but when you do, there's questions. Why can't we do it? Why can't you do it? What's the process? Homeowners want to know the details, and that's something called TPO. What is that exactly?
TPO is a single ply membrane roofing product that's been out for, I don't know, 20 years or so. It's a plastic roof. It goes down really quickly on the roofing install side. It gets heat welded at the seams, so it's seamless once it's up there. And it's got great energy efficiency qualities. It reflects the sunlight really well. It's bright white.
So it makes the home cooler.
It does.
Okay.
Absolutely.
How much usually?
They claim 30% energy savings when
Wow.
over like a traditional rolled comp or torch down roofing
Now this
product.
is only for flat roofs that you'll see this.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Yep, and we don't have any issues installing on TPO. We're actually doing a whole bunch of projects now where apartment complex re-roofs or warehouses, and then we're installing solar on top of it. And we're typically going to use ballast trays to install the solar panels on TPO. You
Okay.
can penetrate. You can use tilt legs or fast jacks or
Chem curbs.
or any other type of low slope install method. and then you can either waterproof it with chem curbs, or you can weld a special TPO flashing around that penetration.
Now, this is from a sales perspective. I've heard that TPO is a bunch of chemicals and there's 4 layers to it for TPO. Is this a myth? Is this
That is
wrong?
definitely a myth. Yep, that goes against the definition of it, which is a single ply roofing system.
Salespeople are highly educated with what they know. What about a larger corporation? Do you guys take on roofs like that?
We do. The TPO is one of the ones, though, that it usually has a really good warranty on it. So we will sometimes work with the homeowner, because usually they might be concerned about the warranty of their roof. They just got this new TPO roof, and the roof contractor said it's a 50-year warranty. So there's been some solutions where we'll say, if you want to keep that warranty, we can put in a post, and then their roofer could come and flash over that to keep that warranty, because that's a big concern that usually homeowners have
With TPO roofs?
with TPO roofs, yeah.
Okay, and then you guys keep mentioning chem curb. What is that exactly? And when is it used? It's used on rolled composition. Which, let's back up a little bit. Rolled composition is just comp shingle, but it comes in these big rolls, and you roll it out, right?
Yep,
And then you torch it down, and that primarily just goes on flat roofs.
correct.
Okay. I have seen some rickety roofs in my day where there's rolled comp on a sloped roof.
Sure.
Is that bad?
Not necessarily. It is. It's not going to last as long as shingles, and it doesn't look as good as shingles. But to waterproof it, you can't retrofit a flashing into torch down or torch down rolled comp, because there's no overlaps of the shingles to tuck the flashing up into. So it requires a different type of waterproofing method, which is the preferred method would be a chem curb. So a chem curb is a little plastic ring. They come in different sizes, 3, 4, 5 inches, and
Like a little bowl, like a little
Like a cup.
cup.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
it basically creates a frame around the penetration, and you then fill in the empty space with an adhesive or a waterproofing solution.
Like an epoxy or a glue or
Yep,
something.
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
And it's got a great warranty. I don't know, what is it, 20 years?
Yeah, it's a really good solution. We use it a lot. It's been out for I think 5 years now, maybe.
Yep.
And it's a good solution now that we use, and it's just another application you can use for that type of roof.
Okay, so with a chem curb, is that more expensive than the flashing you're talking about with composition shingle?
It does have a little bit of added cost there and labor.
Is that, and labor too? Is that why it's more expensive? Is that why there's an adder for the flat roofs? Is it because of the flashing that you use?
It's the waterproofing. It's also the racking system. So,
Racking's different on a flat roof?
absolutely.
Okay.
On a pitched roof, a 4 and 12 roof, the panels are going to be installed at the same angle of the roof. Okay, so there's the flashing with the integrated L foot, and the rail attaches to the L foot, and then the panels strapped to the rails. Okay, on a flat roof, you've got to create a tilt to get the desired production that we want, and so you have the attachment point to the roof. Then you've got an L foot, and then you have a tilt leg, and then you have the rail, then you have the panel. And so there's added material, that tilt
Yeah,
leg.
you have to pay for the metal to prop it up to be tilted.
Exactly.
Which you don't on a roof. right?
Correct.
So the added cost is the additional metal to tilt it.
Yep.
And then the chem curbs
Yep.
that you would use. What if the homeowners just wanted to leave them flat on the roof, knowing that it's less production, but for aesthetics they want it flat? You have an adder for chem curbs, and then you have an adder for chem curbs and tilt. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And this is general for most contractors, right?
Yep.
All of them I've seen have had the 2 different adders on flat roofs, and it's good to know why.
Yeah.
It's for those 2 things?
Yep.
Okay. What is considered a flat roof? I know that there's some variance in degrees, but I don't know where that variance ends.
Yeah, more accurate terminology would be low slope.
Low
Okay.
slope, okay.
Yeah, so no roofs are flat, but a lot of them have a really low slope. Anything under a 2 and 12 pitch would be considered a low slope roof.
And
So
how many degrees is that roughly?
that's going to be, what, 10 degrees or less?
I think
Yeah, that's what it is.
8 degrees or less.
8 degrees or less is considered a
Low
low
slope.
slope.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
good to know. And then we've talked about the steep slopes, which is rappelling down the roof side, right?
Yeah.
So standing seam metal roofs. I know that everyone always asks, can we do metal roofs? That company did over there, why can't you? So there's standing seam metal roofs and corrugated metal.
Yep.
What is the difference between those two?
Those two are both very similar, and we actually have no issues installing on either of those products. They're great. They're easy to walk on. They're resilient. They last a long time, and you can very quickly and easily evaluate the condition. Right? There usually isn't going to be any hidden disasters on a metal roof.
Unless there's rusted holes, then you say that's a problem.
Bingo.
Very easy.
Very
to see.
easy to see.
So on the from your larger corporation that you're representing, the standing seam is the only one that you guys do, not corrugated metal. But you have no problem with corrugated metal and standing seam.
Correct.
Why is there an issue with corrugated?
I believe I don't know what type of racking you guys use, but I know, I don't know if there's a racking system that we like to use, and it's possible that there could be, we don't feel comfortable that it's fully water sealed, so.
If it's on a metal roof, a corrugated metal roof, then essentially it wouldn't be on an actual home. It would be more of an open structure, wouldn't it? Or is that not typical?
Very, very rare for corrugated metal to be used on a home or on the roof of a house. Yeah, that's usually going to be a barn or an outbuilding or a patio cover. And so the waterproofing isn't, quite frankly, is not as crucial, but obviously it still needs to be waterproof.
Oh, it does, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Unless it's a carport or something like that, right?
Yep.
Okay. And there's an adder for that. For what reason is there an adder on those?
It is the attachment, the actual attachment product, the standoff that we use is not widely available. It's a special order product.
Okay. So on corrugated metal, typically, on typical homes, you have trusses, and they're usually, 24 inches apart?
Yep.
On typical homes. And it's very easy. Your site surveyor goes in, measures the 24 inches, finds out where they're at. So when you penetrate the roof, you know it's every 24 inches. You just measure it out. On a corrugated metal roof, and possibly it's the same for standing seam, if you guys correct me on this, but on corrugated metal, usually there's not trusses like that. It's usually a cross beam, the distance of the structure, and then another one sometimes in the middle, but usually closer to the top, and then they just lay the corrugated metal in a long sheet over it. Is that right?
Tough to say. I mean, there could be a million different situations, obviously, but with standing seam, we're not going to make an attachment to the structure of the home, which is a little bit strange, right? Because every other installation method, most other installation methods, we're going to lag bolt through the roofing product, through the decking, and into the structural support of the home, the rafters, the trusses, the joists, whatever it may be. On standing seam, we're simply clamping onto that seam. And so it feels weird as a solar installer to not be penetrating that roof and going into the structural support. We're relying on that whoever installed that standing seam, that those metal sheets are secure to their roof deck.
Okay. So now I have seen structures that you've actually installed on for us where there are only 2 beams going across, but you're fitting 40 panels on 2 beams of a structure. How is that possible?
We're going to have to use the heaviest weight racking system. So with each different racking system on the market, they've usually got like a small, medium, large, like diameter of the rail. Okay, the heavier diameter or the larger the diameter of that rail, the longer spans we can go between
And the more
attachment points,
expensive,
and the more expensive.
Okay.
Of course, it's
Thicker
3
material.
times the aluminum in that rail. So yeah, so if we need to span, I don't think there's nothing we can span 20 feet with, but I think we can go up to 10 or 12 feet between attachment points with the heaviest gauge rail.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
okay. And last on the list here for me is fiberglass, or is that the same as synthetic shake that you mentioned?
Yes.
Fiberglass and synthetic are the same?
Yeah, I
Or are there
haven't heard it.
interchangeable terms like comp shingle, or
It must be, because I actually have never heard it referred to as fiberglass.
again, another sales rep, another sales rep terminology. That's fiberglass right there. Yep.
Yeah, synthetic shake. We see it a lot in Rancho Santa Fe. Actually, it's required in the Covenant of Rancho Santa Fe. They have an approved list of roofing products that you can use, and the majority of those products are different types of synthetic shake. And quite frankly, we hate the stuff. It's expensive, and it's very, very laborious to install. It becomes brittle after being on the roof for 15 or 20 years. And typically, we're going to want a picture frame, any kind of shake or synthetic shake that we come across.
Okay. So that's another same adder as possibly lightweight tile.
Lightweight tile or two-piece clay tile. We didn't touch on any clay tile yet either.
Oh, true. I just thought that was considered lightweight tile.
So one-piece clay tile. So with any tile, you've got the high side, and then you've got the low side, right? And one piece means that one piece of tile makes up the hump, and the valley.
Yeah.
Okay. There's also two-piece clay tile, and that's what really looks like a Spanish villa. Sometimes it has the big hunks of mortar between the tile pieces.
Oh yeah, and it looks
Oreo cookie kind of scenario.
Yep. And so that's made up of what are they? They're tiles and pans. And the tile is the hump, and the pan is a separate piece that creates the valley. And that is the most expensive, well, one of the more expensive roofs. You definitely cannot walk on it, and it takes a very skilled roofer to do that
Is
product.
when it's two pieces.
When it's two-piece and there's
Okay.
boosting in there.
Okay.
Yep.
Last one. What about a metal roof that? So you walk up to the home, and I did this one time. I walked up to the home. I was like, "That is a very nice looking composition shingle roof," and then it started to rain, and it sounded like tinkering bells.
Yep.
Because it's a metal roof. What is
Mhm.
what is that? Is that standing seam roof, or is it?
It's like a 3 foot sectional they're pieces. They're about 3 feet long, 18 inches wide. And yeah, usually if you're hearing that, there's styrofoam under it, and it could have skip sheeting where you're gonna have to plywood, but
Styrofoam, or I've heard wood shake go under those
yeah,
sometimes
wood
too.
shake, exactly.
So two different types of metal roofs we're talking about here. Stone-coated steel is one, and it'll actually look like a tile roof. It looks like an S tile. And in the 90s, there were a lot of roofing contractors selling this stone-coated steel product, and they would install it right over the top of existing shake shingle.
Okay.
And so there's a whole nother roof underneath the roof. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was blown away. I had no knowledge of this product years ago, and I thought, that looks like an interesting roof. Well, you can't walk on it for one because it's thin. It's got to be, well, it's steel, but it's coated in these granules that make it look like tile.
It does look like tile.
It does look like
Sure,
tile.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you get up and walk on it, you leave big dents in it. And so you can tell exactly where it's been walked on before.
Yeah.
Not a lot of times from the ground, but as soon as you set up your ladder and get level with it, you go, oh gosh.
Sasquatch was up here.
Yeah.
All right.
And so talk about a screwy picture frame to work with. Is it possible? Of course, anything's possible. Is it a major pain in the ass and expensive? Yes. Because now, when we picture frame a stone-coated steel, we got to pull off the stone-coated steel, then demo all the nasty, 50-year-old shake shingle that's under there, plywood it, install the comp shingle, install the solar, and then figure out how to put the stone-coated steel back around that and get it to tie in to the valleys or the hips or whatever, where it ties into the existing
was.
roof. It is a huge pain in the ass.
So it's not the same as comp shingle then.
It is no.
Jay, you mentioned foam. What roof types would you often see foam on?
It's like a metal seam roof, I think.
So yeah, this is a metal shingle type of roofing product as well that has this insulating foam in it, and I've only seen it probably twice.
Well, I've seen it on manufactured homes where it's a metal seam and it looks like there's a resin over the top of it, and they say there's like 4-inch thick foam. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. They come in like 3-foot sectionals, and they kind of look like tile. It's a really rare roof to see, but yeah, they have most likely. I've seen it actually with styrofoam, which helps prevent, like, if you actually do walk on it, from it denting.
Mm-hmm.
But I have seen it also without, or with styrofoam and without styrofoam.
It squeaks when you walk on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a rare roof to see, and sometimes just by looking at it, you would think it's tile, but it actually isn't.
Yep.
So that's just, if you were going in there, you would just maybe chat with the customer and see what he says. Try to talk about his roof, see if any type of clues come up that it's a metal roof, and then if you weren't able to notice that it was a metal roof, then.
And you cannot install on that. The way those metal shingles come together, you have
New roof. You have
Yep.
to do a new roof.
another picture frame.
So can you install through foam though?
All right. So the foam is a spray-on. It looks like the surface of the moon. Is one of my sales reps. One of my sales reps saw it for the first time the other day, and she thought, "What the hell is this?" And let's say you got a big warehouse building or a manufactured home. And its original roof had gotten to the point where it needed to be re-roofed, and instead of tearing off that original roof and putting a new roof on, these companies come in with big sprayers, and it's like that expanding yellow foam that they sell at Home Depot to fill in gaps and things like that.
Yeah.
It kind of goes on like that, but out of a big industrial sprayer. And you spray it all over the roof, and it grows, but it doesn't grow perfectly flat. It looks like the surface of the moon. And it waterproofs incredibly well, and it lasts a long time. It's absolutely hideous. In all the little low spots, it collects dust and dirt. It's always going to be white to reflect the sunlight. It adds a ton of insulating factor to that building. And so it is really energy efficient. Installing solar on top of that, there are definitely some complications involved. One, finding the rafters to lag our attachment point through that foam and into the structure of the building is nearly impossible. You just got to start drilling until you until you find it. So the preferred method to install on that would be like a ballast system, which is a ballast. We haven't touched on ballast, but a ballast system is basically a rack that the panel sits on, and that just sits on the roof, and you weigh it down with a couple of little cinder blocks.
Sand or sand,
Exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So last subject here, and I know that some people are getting into this, and there's people that just live off of this, but what about installing on a manufactured home? Some companies stay away from that. Some companies are like, yes, please give us all of them. I know that the trusses are different sizes. I know you need extra engineering stamps.
Mm-hmm.
Are there complications to it? Are there adders? What is your take from both of you on that?
There can be complications on manufactured homes, and you would basically just have to get the framing information, all the details, and give it to an engineer and see what he says. But it is possible, and they do make racking systems that you can use on manufactured homes, but it just really depends on the framing of that.
Why is it different for a manufactured home? And I feel like we're being a little bit. We're getting rid of those people, those manufactured homes. That's not nice to do. Right?
Excluding them from the solar
Yeah.
game. So manufactured homes are built differently. They're built very lightweight. They're built in a factory. They're not built from standard building materials and full-size lumber. Okay, so I weigh 250 pounds. If I walk around on the roof of a mobile home, a manufactured home, I can tell it's a manufactured home. It feels like I'm going to fall through.
Okay.
It does not feel like you should be mounting anything up here that weighs any kind of substantial weight. And a solar system is not a substantial weight. It adds an additional 2 pounds per foot, which is nearly nothing. But it is a static. That's the right term, static load. It's going to sit up there for the next 30 years. And over 30 years, a couple pounds per foot can make a difference to a structure.
Makes sense.
And so in general, we've installed on, I mean, I can count it on one hand how many times we've installed on a manufactured home. Typically, we do not want the really old school looking manufactured homes with the low slope roof. Those are going to be framed out of metal, and it's an actual metal roof, and we're not going to penetrate that, and you're not going to ballast. You can't put even more weight up there than the solar panels. Typically, the only manufactured homes we're going to install on are newer models with a pitched roof and shingles and asphalt shingle roofs.
Okay.
Those are possible.
Now, I have an obscure one, and I know this video is a little bit longer, but these are just massive questions that everyone has.
Yeah.
And there are many different roof types and processes, so I feel like the viewers that are watching this, this is valuable to them.
Cool.
One that may not be so valuable is I've seen these blue roofs that look like they're made of glass, or they're metallic. There's a shimmer to them, and they almost look like they're silicone. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you seen those?
You're talking about, I'm picturing like a tile.
It looks like a tile.
Yeah, and it's super custom, and I've never installed on one. It's a ceramic tile. That's what it is.
Oh, it's ceramic.
It's ceramic.
Okay.
I'm almost certain.
Yeah, I've ran into a situation on the coast. It was a real high-end client up in Laguna Beach. They had a tile actually that had the ceramic coating on it, blue, and it was imported from Japan, and it was about a 200-year-old tile.
Oh.
So, you have those situations, and she didn't want us messing with the tile.
She wanted solar on her roof, but she didn't want the...
Yeah, basically, the situation on that was it was a flat roof on top, but she didn't want anybody like putting ladders or all that, so it was kind of a custom situation. But it's
very rare.
It's a very rare situation for a
So if
roof
we come
type.
across that look, we probably should just
Assume
walk
you
away.
Assume you got to picture frame it.
Or it's expensive install.
Yeah.
Okay. Last on the flat roofs, I noticed that when we're designing or designers look at it, you look at Google Images or Google Maps. A lot of people use satellite imagery now to do designs. And when I'm looking at a flat roof, I notice that there are lines in the flat roof. It's got to be those. They use 6x4 trusses. Is that right?
Yep.
In the flat roof, they're thicker than the 2x4s for the trusses in a sloped home.
Sorry, no. A typical a truss is going to be made out of 2x4 or 2x6.
Okay.
So it's 2 inches wide and 4 or 6 inches deep, or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, they are spaced 24 inches on center.
On the flat roof?
On
a sloped roof.
On a sloped roof.
Okay.
Flat roof might be 16
Okay.
inches on center.
And in these images, I see these lines, and it looks like the beams are thicker than it would be the 2x4s. Is that right?
It could be possible.
It's not standard for flat roofs.
It's not standard if the beams aren't like 2x4s or 2x6s or 2x10s, and it possibly could be like an old house built in like the 1960s where it just has 3 beams, they're 6 feet apart. You still can put solar on that roof, but you would just have to beef up the mounting systems on what you can do to max your spans on that.
Thicker aluminum you were talking about.
Thicker aluminum would be the solution on that.
So when we're designing and I see these white lines on this flat roof, it looks like I know exactly where we're going to mount them into, right?
Yep.
Why do we see those white lines on a flat roof?
That's typically going to be the plywood sagging between the structural support.
Okay.
And so it does create this line that very clearly shows you where the structural support is. But typically it's just a sagging plywood.
And I feel like with flat roofs, we get a lot of freedom, almost like we do with a ground mount, where we can do it at any azimuth. But with flat roofs, I feel like we have the freedom of doing it every 90 degrees. So if the trusses, or what do you call them the structural support in a flat roof,
Rafters.
rafters, if they're facing directly 180 degrees, then we can also go to 270 and 0 and 90, right?
Sure.
So I know that when we're designing this, every time we get the design coming back horizontal with the structural support, the rafters, and I tell them rotate them 90 degrees to face optimal for production, and they give us pushback on that.
Yep.
But I know it can be done. They're the same distance apart, right? Why can't
Yeah.
it be done? Or at least I believe that it can be done. And when I say that, they believe too, because the design comes back that way.
Right.
How come everyone has an issue with going against?
Sure.
Right.
So we want the rails of the solar install to go perpendicular to the structural support of that flat roof. Okay, and what that allows us to do is put the attachment point, the standoff, on different structural supports, spreading the load of the solar panels across multiple structural support beams, the rafters.
I see.
Okay, so when the rails go perpendicular to the rafters, and then the panels go parallel to the rafters. Okay,
Dispersing the weight.
exactly.
Okay.
When you run the rail of the solar install parallel or on top of one rafter, you then put the entire weight of the solar system on that one rafter. And if it's 8 panels or whatever, it's not a big deal, but it could become a big deal if it's a really big system.
Makes sense. Okay, so that's the reason we get pushback on it.
Yep.
Is there anything that can be added to the system if it's favorable for the homeowner and the sales rep is being a sales rep?
Right.
Is there any structural changes you can do easily, or any adjustments on racking, or anything you can do to?
No,
Make
because
it
no, structural changes require structural engineers, and structural engineers coming out to the site are not cost effective.
Okay.
So
You wanted to talk, yeah.
tar and gravel roofing.
TNG.
TNG.
Yes, TNG. Do you refer to it as TNG?
No.
I've heard it called TNG.
No,
I say
because
tar and
that's
gravel.
tongue and groove,
Yeah.
and that's lumber that's used on a roof.
They're interchangeable.
Sounds good.
Tar and gravel is a fantastic roofing method, typically used on low slope roofs, and it's outdated. It's not done a whole lot anymore because of the insurance issues it creates with the roofing contractor. Carrying boiling hot buckets of tar up a ladder onto a roof is dangerous. And so most roofers do not do tar and gravel.
You don't boil it on the roof?
So in the old days, they actually would pipe it from the kettle down on the ground up onto the roof, and with a big valve
Wow,
dump.
okay.
Yeah, and then you mop it around, and then you cover it with rocks, and the rocks keep the sun off the tar, and it lasts a long, long time. And you can do multiple layers over the years, but installing on it, there are some issues. Getting the waterproofing on tar and gravel is the biggest issue.
Yeah.
So there's no way to flash it. Obviously, it's not a shingle or a tile of any type. It is a melted on surface, so there are no seams to it. And so you've got to penetrate directly through it, and then typically you're going to move all the gravel from the area where you need to penetrate into the structure.
Just like this, or is it hard to move the gravel?
So some of it is embedded into the tar, and that's the problem, because now you've got a very lumpy surface that you're trying to waterproof to, and so there are some risks involved, and most roofers, don't like the idea of penetrating a tar and gravel roof.
I've found that most roofers won't do it.
Right. Right. ChemCurb would probably be the best method for waterproofing, because the liquid in the ChemCurb can fill all those little nooks and crannies that are created from gravel, moving embedded gravel out of the tar.
Okay. Not more tar.
Yeah, finding somebody to get up there with tar is not going to happen.
Okay.
Right? A Henry's or a mastic product is the closest you're going to get to tar, and a mastic is a temporary solution. It's going to last a couple years, dry and crack, and then you're going to have waterproofing issues.
And do you guys use tar and gravel, or do you use chem curbs on your tar and gravel?
It depends on
Actually,
the,
wait, yeah, you guys don't do tar and gravel corporate, right?
I don't think we do, no.
Yeah, I remember being DQ'd for that, and it's because you guys don't want to deal with it, or you're too afraid of the
It's-
waterproofing, or
Yeah,
what?
it's a waterproofing liability.
Okay.
It's really tough to waterproof,
Yeah.
basically.
But you're comfortable with chem curbs.
We don't do a lot of them, but
It's a rare roof too,
yeah.
to come across,
yeah.
Okay.
old school.
All right, I think that's it on the roofing products.
Seeing. Woo, that's a long one.